Hello, my name is Joanna Hawthorne, and I'm going to be talking to you today about babies and fathers. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk. Thank you to the Bright Start Foundation. And it's very good to meet everybody. Of course, I can't see you, but I'm very happy to be here. Whoopsie, I've got to just do that again, sorry. And there we go. So I understand that you have actually, I'm sorry, I can't, oh, here we are. You have seen the pre-webinar questions, and all of you think fathers are very important, and I agree with you. And so what we're going to do is really look into some of the research about fathers and things and activities that they can do with babies. So first of all, we're going to talk about babies and I'm focusing on babies from birth to 3 months old. And then we'll talk about fathers with their very young babies. And then finally, there are some activities which you'll also find in the handout that I prepared for you. The other thing is that at the end of this webinar, I'm going to show a little film clip. So first of all, let's learn about babies. So babies they cannot talk, they make a lot of vocalizations, but their behavior, everything you see a baby do is important because that's their language. They are telling us all the time with their facial expressions, their arms, their legs, their little noises, what they would like us to do, what mood they're in, all sorts of things. So we need to really focus very much on observing babies at all times to see what they're telling us. The other thing to remember is that every baby is different. And I'm sure if you already have one child, you are, and then have another one, and you think, gosh, they're so completely different. They have different personalities, they like different things, but I'm actually, and then it's another learning experience, isn't it, to get to know your second baby, and so forth. Then one of the things we need to remember also is how fast babies learn in these first few months of life. And as you may know, that children learn much faster in this period, and in fact, in the first few years, than they ever will later on. And so we're always aware now how much we need to reply to babies when they ask us for something, and also just be aware that everything they're doing is becoming a sort of part of their brain development. And finally, babies can only develop within a relationship. So we are aware that babies need to have a family relationship, and we're going to look in detail about some of these points. So every baby's different, and they also like different things. And, you know, years ago, we really didn't think babies could do anything. We thought that they were sort of just there to eat, sleep, and cry. But now we know so much more about the fact that we can see their personalities from the very beginning, and they are different from each other. They have different preferences. Some babies like to be held horizontally, perhaps, and some may be held upright. Some prefer that. Some babies may react to loud sounds and be very upset when they hear a loud sound, and other babies might sleep right through the loud sounds. And then, of course, some babies like to be prefer the sort of slow, gentle handling, and other babies perhaps can manage a faster pace and are sort of saying, come on, what's next? You know, let's do that and let's do something different. So going at the pace of the baby and helping to really understand what it is they can manage is so important. And then, of course, when babies cry, we notice differences in how some of them can manage their crying. They might cry just for a short time, and then they might decide to look at something or put their hand in their mouth or something that would help them calm down. But other babies need a lot of support to calm down from us, and that is what they're asking for. If they can't help themselves, we need to help them and facilitate how they're learning, because if they're trying to get their hand into their mouth to suck their hand, well, we can help them find that. But again, everything depends on the family and what they what the cultural practices are, of course, of their family. So when I say babies learn very fast, what happens is that every single experience they have, everything we do to them actually affects the development of their brains, because they are making all these connections in their brains. And at the end of my talk, there's some websites you can look at with wonderful explanations about how babies learn. And the other thing they're learning is not only about the people in their life and how to manage the world, but also they're developing a sense of self-esteem and trust in others. And they're learning that they can trust us or their caregivers to meet their needs appropriately. And so this business of actually, you sort of don't think a baby in the first few months of life, maybe learning about trust and self-esteem and also developing their confidence, but that's actually what's happening. And they learn from the way we interact with them. And of course, as a parent, you think your baby is the best thing in the world. And of course they are. That's what we want parents to, that's how parents feel, and all this love, we mustn't forget the word love, but it is really getting to know each other and learning what your individual baby is doing. And the other thing they learn from us is how to sort of regulate their emotions. We can help them. And at the beginning, of course, parents are facilitating all this and containing the baby so that they can learn how to manage themselves when they get upset. And also they're actually learning from us too, as to how do we regulate our emotions, and they'll be picking up everything that we're doing as well. So when you look at a baby, I always think it's important to think, now, what is this baby thinking and feeling? So here's a little baby who looks very young, and his eyes are wide open. So this is a alert state where the baby can really take in what's happening around them that day. And this is the best state for them to learn and play with us. And we can tell if they're feeling content or if they're not. And I would say, that this little baby is looking pretty content. And it's interesting to look at photographs of babies or videos and think about what they might be thinking and feeling. And he's got his little hand up there, which at the ready, because hands are really important to babies as well. So these are all the things we need to think about when we're thinking of young babies. Another very important thing is that babies can only develop within the context of a relationship. So they're going to benefit from all the relationships with their family and their extended family, their grandparents, starting very early in their lives. And here's a family welcoming a little baby, another child into the family. And you can see the mother's hand on the father's shoulder there. And they're obviously thrilled to have a new member of the family, and they're looking at all the things they're doing and giving them a big hug, and that looks lovely. But the other thing is that babies tell us what they need with their behavior, as I said. And what parents are doing is trying to meet their needs appropriately. So the baby then, this is how they develop their trust that their needs will be met, because the parent is reading what the baby wants, reading their little cues, and then providing what the baby needs, whatever it may be. Maybe the baby's fussing because they're hungry, because they need changing, but also, you know, babies can be bored. They might feel a little bit lonely, so they're going to vocalize and say, "Where are you? You know, I'd like to have a chat." And I think this is so important. And these are all the different things to think about when we're looking at very young babies. But we know, of course, that both parents contribute to the baby's well-being. I'm going to be talking about fathers today, but it's so important that both parents will, I mean, it just happens that both parents will contribute, of course, to the baby's well-being. And we can see here a new family. And then we have, I found another picture of another family. So it's all about, you know, that excitement when you suddenly, after 9 months, you have a new baby in the family, and everybody wants to see what's happening and what this little baby is like, and get to know this new person, because we know how important it is for that relationships are what, you know, we need support for our relationships, and we also want to help the baby understand all the family members and what everybody is like in the family. So when we look at research about fathers, we find that actually many of them, you see, don't forget that years ago, all we ever did was do research with mothers, because the mother was really the one who was feeding the baby, and years ago was the one who was staying at home, and the father would be the breadwinner. But now everything has changed a lot in more recently. But some of the things I'm going to talk about are based on research projects where they were looking particularly at fathers. So they find that fathers feel very responsible for their family, and they want to protect the mother and the new baby, of course. And often, if the baby is born in the hospital, they will be the go-between between the family and the mother in the hospital with the baby, and they'll be managing everything at home and helping to look after everything while the mother's in the hospital. And then when the mother comes back, there's this overriding sense of you know, wanting to protect this new baby and the mother. And many fathers would like to be more involved with their babies, but historically, they often have felt quite left out because health services often focus on just the mother and the baby. And this used to be true in England, where I used to live, where the health visitor would come to the house. Every new baby gets a visit from a health visitor who will come to the house and check the baby out there and get to know the parents. But so often the father will open the door, and you know, the health visitor will go in and talk to the mother, and the father will disappear and go and make a cup of tea and generally stay away. But now we do, of course, for years we've been encouraging fathers to stay there while the mother and the baby are being checked out. And also, of course, there are great cultural differences. So in all sorts of different countries, fathers have different degrees of involvement with their babies in these early months. But now with the internet, of course, we can find out so much more about understanding families and babies, and playing, of course, with our infants from the beginning. So other research studies on father involvement with their children when they're looking at how much fathers play with their children and talk with them, they're finding that the children of fathers who do that are more confident, more motivated, more patient, have more friends, and have better language skills. And this is very interesting because we can see the effects, of course, on what mothers are doing with their children, but also these are fairly new studies on father involvement. They also found that fathers who are more involved with their children, with talking and playing, have better maths and reading skills and physical skills. And apparently fathers ask more questions than mothers. So they probably are prompting the child to think about different things. And so questioning is something which, just thinking about things and what do you think about that and that sort of thing. And I think that's an interesting finding as well. And then they also found that the parent relationship was stronger if the father was involved with the children in the caregiving, in the playing, in the talking. And that's something which I think we know from other research that if both parents are unified in their approach to the children, that is a great help as well to the children's development. So we're thinking here about the growth and development of children and how they can best grow and develop. So there are many, many studies out there. I haven't listed all of them, but I can send people more information if they would like about these studies. And so that can be something that you can tell me once you're interested in, if you're interested in those sorts of things. I'm wondering if I have to stop sharing now. Okay, no, I don't. Whoops, sorry. Ooh. I'm so sorry. So I'll just make sure I didn't miss a slide here. So that's the research. And now we're talking about father's well-being. So family well-being is important for good relationships. And we're always interested in the health of the family. And for instance, one of the things that often happens after birth for mothers is they might develop postnatal depression. Depression and anxiety can be present in pregnancy as well as postnatally. So that's something which there's a lot of research on that, and we know how difficult it is for parents, for mothers who are postnatally depressed. And the mental health of parents is so important, and we know more and more about how to support them. But other studies show that fathers can also become depressed and anxious, and during pregnancy or postnatally particularly. And 1 in 10 fathers can experience a mood disorder after birth. So again, always be aware of the health and well-being of your family. And I think nowadays there are more places where we can get help if we aren't feeling well. And of course, many people in the health professions are aware of these issues. So now we're going to look a little bit at what fathers are doing. And I found some wonderful photographs online of fathers at the first meeting with their baby after delivery, and what an emotional time it is for both parents and the whole family. That first meeting after birth, getting to know your little baby right away after birth. And these things are just moments of pure joy. And of course, sometimes the father is almost the first one to see the baby, you know, right after delivery, or hold the baby. So it is just a fantastic, exciting, and lovely time for parents to be involved. And of course, we know now during the pandemic in different hospitals around the country and the world, it isn't possible sometimes for the parents, both parents, the father to be at the delivery. And I'm hoping, you know, that can be very, very difficult because it's such an important time. But your baby don't forget, your baby has listened to you both during pregnancy from the sort of 8 weeks before birth. They can hear you when you speak to them. And so they'll be very familiar with your voices, and probably turn to your voice very quickly when they hear it, because they remember. Their memory is so good, and they can remember right away if they've heard that voice before. And you may find that they turn to their brothers and sisters very quickly when they hear their voices too. So these moments are so important, and I'm sure we all have masses of photographs of our family meeting the new baby from the very beginning. So let's talk about what the best toy is for your baby. Excuse me a minute. So the best toy for your newborn baby is your face and voice. They have heard your voice, as I say, and they want to they want to see the connection, the face and the voice. And your baby is going to learn so much through your face and voice that it really is their best toy. And so what we do with newborns, of course, or with any new baby, is to watch to see what they like best. And when we're looking at babies and they are in that calm state with their eyes open, like the picture I showed just a few slides ago, that is when they're available for playing and learning. And you can just see their eyes can really lock on to your face. And the best distance to hold your baby is sort of what we call breastfeeding distance, about 20 to 30 centimeters away from your face. And the face-to-face interaction with your father, as well, of course, as other members of the family, is so important to how the baby is learning. And there are very many things you can do with your new baby, like talking, singing, and even reading a book. Because, of course, at the beginning, your baby is very sleepy and probably sleeps a lot. But that doesn't mean to say that you cannot think about all the things that you might be able to do with your baby when they have more awake moments. And it will vary a lot between babies. But then you'll know when they're ready for something more. But your face and voice is really the best toy for your baby at this point. So holding your baby, I mean, this is such a lovely thing to be doing, and finding out what position they prefer. As I said before, this is so important because babies are so different from each other. And of course, you might find that your second or third child is similar to one of the other ones, but finding what position they like is so important. They also may enjoy this skin-to-skin contact, and you undo your shirt and you put your baby on your chest, and this has great benefits for babies. Again, they feel your warmth. They smell your skin. it can help them regulate their temperature. And we often do this with parents in the neonatal unit, but even at home, this is something that if you enjoy it, that's the other thing to think about, is something mutually enjoyable that you both enjoy. And just watch your little baby's reactions to everything. Then the talking, the singing, reading a book, all these things are possible. Reciting poetry, perhaps dancing gently with your baby. There are so many things you can do, as well as the everyday activities, of course, of changing, helping to feed with a bottle perhaps, and giving your baby a bath. So there are so many aspects of the caregiving that is important, but just a chat is also lovely. And you can see the baby connecting everything and sort of imagining how hard his brain is working and how much he's taking in from absolutely everything we do with him or her. So here are some photographs. We have the skin to skin, and you can see that this baby is probably newly born and is looking intently at his father. And there's often this time after birth, isn't there, when your gaze is locked onto each other. And this is a lovely time to practice the skin-to-skin contact. But as I say, even at home, as long as you both enjoy it, it can be so beneficial to getting to know each other and enjoying each other. And then look at this baby. This baby, what if you can see this little girl's face? She is smiling. So clearly she's comfortable. And this is the other thing to think about. Does she seem to be enjoying this? Does my baby seem to be content when I'm doing things with the baby? And look at how she's holding tight to her father's finger. So when we look at babies, we're looking at absolutely everything they do. And it seems to me from this photograph that both father and baby are really enjoying this moment. Then there's the face-to-face interaction, which we talk about. Now, this father and this baby are very close together, looking intently at each other. And you see how the little baby is tucked, has his hands tucked under his chin. He's all contained, and he's probably got his feet against his father's stomach. And the father may find, and the baby will tell them, you're a bit too close, or maybe if you're too far away, the baby will tell you. But this lovely chance to sort of sit there and have a face-to-face conversation is just very beneficial to the growth of the brain. Everything we do means a lot to the growth and development of the baby. And then I put this one in because they're so close. It looks as though they're going to rub noses, which is such a fun thing because, you know, the baby can detect whether this is a humorous interaction or whether this is, you know, again, oh gosh, Daddy, you're too close. Please move back a bit. The baby might be saying, we're not sure. But at the moment, in this capture of this one little moment, the baby looks very happy. And they're both sort of saying, oh, there you are, you know. And what I'm noticing is the baby's hands are sort of clenched fists. And so it may be his way of saying, whoops, this is a little too close, because you can look at all his behavior, as I say, and hands tell us a lot about how the baby is feeling, but they certainly are looking as though they're enjoying that moment. The face-to-face playtime, this actually is my son-in-law with their new baby, and he has been practicing sticking his tongue out to see if the baby imitates, which of course they do from birth. And so that's a fun thing to do. And because the baby can imitate actually quite a lot of actions. They can imitate you holding up one finger, for instance. And one researcher has found that they can imitate you holding up 2 or 3 fingers, giving the baby time, of course, to react. And they always must be in a calm state 4, where they're wide awake, alert, and ready for interaction. Now, music. Well, what could be a better thing to do with your baby? And we know the effects of music on the developing brain, in fact. And perhaps you've played some music before the baby was born. And they would, if they are familiar with a particular tune or a particular piece of music, they're going to recognize it after delivery as well. Because don't forget, in that last trimester, they can actually hear what's going on in the world around them. So here's a father who has the baby on the left in a front pack, a carrier. And it looks as though both these parents are finding that the music lulls the baby to sleep. But of course, you can do it when your baby's wide awake and wants to dance and sing. And just including your baby in all the activities that you like doing. I mean, if you like going out in the garden and looking at nature, the baby can come with you. If you like playing instruments, the baby can join you. So it's never too early, really, to have your baby with you when you're doing various things like this. Whoops. There we are. And here's the reading of the book. So lots of these books are available for babies, young babies. They're board books. They're made of hard cardboard. And some of the ones with bright pictures in them are very tantalizing to the baby. Some of the books have black and white images, which can be too overwhelming for babies. So look very carefully to see if your baby actually appreciates the pictures, or if perhaps it's too much for them, too stimulating. Because all through this, we're looking to see what actually the baby enjoys that isn't too stimulating, and he'll show you in many little ways if it is too stimulating for him, maybe by looking away, by spitting up, by going a bit pale. So the baby will always tell you when he has had enough. He might get a little bit fussy. You know, there are all kinds of ways they can tell you that they've had enough playtime. And that's a key to finding out what your baby enjoys doing. And finally, enjoying each other. Here is a new baby at home. Look how everybody is fascinated by what this little girl is doing. Some of the big sister is touching her hands and her body, and they're just all together enjoying this new baby in the family. And let's look at the little baby's face down there. She's got her eyes shut. She may find all this quite a lot to everybody at once. So always check to see whether that's too overwhelming for her, or whether she's very happy with that as well. And I think it's just a lovely picture, just signifying that the entire family is so important to new babies, getting to know their siblings, their father, their mother. And I hope this has been helpful. I have actually, as I say, there is a handout sheet going along with this webinar. And also there's some further information on the last slide. But after the end of the talk here, I would like to show you a short video of a father with their 8-week-old baby. And I also will be able to answer some questions if I can see them on the screen. But first of all, Here is a further information of some websites that you might find very interesting. And I actually want to send some more websites about the work with fathers. So thank you very much. And I really do appreciate the invitation from the Bright Start Foundation and for meeting all of you today. And thank you. I will look at the Q&A first and just see if there is a question I can answer right now. Very good questions. The first one is, how do we know fathers are depressed if they are not talking about their emotions with us? This, of course, is very complicated. I think you will notice over time that possibly the father is acting in a rather low-key, rather sad way, is not getting much enjoyment from things, from everyday things that he used to enjoy. And a lot of people are, particularly fathers of men, sometimes are less able to express their emotions. And a lot of depressed people, it isn't just fathers, I don't think, who have trouble saying they're depressed. They may not know. So I think watching to see if they're not eating as much, if they seem rather irritable, I think this is a thing to do and be very aware. So that's just one thought, quick thought there, which I hope is helpful. It is true that men often don't, like women, we're always talking with our friends about how we are feeling, what's happening. So men find it harder to do that. But I think if you're watching your husband, you may be able to have a few little signs that something is not quite right. And they, of course, may not admit that they're depressed, but it may be that you need to encourage them to see their doctor. But I know that that can be hard. Let's see, it says here, we're thankful to the UAE government, parenting leave of 5 days we are getting. So you have a little more leave now with your baby, which of course is wonderful. I can't tell you how important leave is for parents. And in many countries, women can take 1 year, 9 months paid leave in Scandinavia and in England. But I know how hard it is in some countries to get enough leave to be with your baby. But I would say that despite the fact that you have to go back to work, that your baby still knows you and will always benefit from all the times you can be with them. And you can say to your baby, that's the other thing, is to say, you know, I have to go back to work. I'm going to miss you, but I'll be back later and we can have some time together. And I think babies can understand from the tone of your voice how you're feeling about things and what's going to happen. They really like to know what's happening in their day. And another question, when mother comes for an ANC checkup, they should come with husband always. Yes. And that's lovely if the parents can go together for all the checkups. That's the ideal situation. So the parents have a chance to be there. And it sounds as though in the UAE that might be happening, which is so wonderful. So thank you for your questions. And now I'd like to show you this little video of this little baby girl with her father.
Correct. And yesterday which song you sang? Oh. Then what did mommy say then? Mommy said? Correct. Mommy said, why is Tarini sitting up? What did Tarini say then? Tarini said? Correct. And daddy? Was daddy part of this conversation? No. Yes. What did daddy tell you? Correct. Daddy said, "Ah." And then Tarini smiled after that. Ah, correct. Ah, soft, no? Ah, ah. You want a cat? We like dogs in this house. Ninja cat. Dogs only. Ah, ah. Then what happened in that movie then? Oh. Ah. And then you didn't like that movie. No. Ah, you didn't like the movie. Ah. And then Zeppelin said what? Ah, he makes that sound only. Correct. Did he think you were a cat? But
Did you see how they were, the father was vocalizing, the baby was vocalizing and he imitated his little daughter and then the baby did it back. And she was trying to communicate in so many ways with her baby, with her father, with those arms. You weren't quite, you're wondering a little bit about what she was wanting to do with those hands, but definitely the eye, the gaze, the positioning. The father actually was lying on a bed with the baby beside them, and the positioning is so important. So you really can see each other clearly, and I thought that was just one example of a lovely interaction. I don't see any more questions here. So I think actually, oh, wait a minute, there's something in the chat. Thank you very much for watching. Lovely video, Fatima says, that's lovely. I really appreciate being invited by the Bright Start Foundation to give this talk. And it's wonderful to share with you some of this information and the latest research, as well as just knowing how important it is for fathers and mothers and siblings to interact with their new baby in a way that is mutually satisfying. So I hope you will look at the handout that is up on the website for you, I believe. So thank you again, and it's very nice to meet you. And I think that is the end of my webinar. So I will say goodbye and look forward perhaps to meeting you again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.